Hey guys, King of Charmander's here, and today I will be your judge, jury, and your analyst. Now, if some of you are wondering, yes, you can use your Goodra for the Retro Cup. It's actually really freaking good for the Retro Cup just because of Fairy types and Steel types being banned. That means Dragon Breath users run amok, and there's nothing that resists Dragon type Pokemon attacks, since Fairy and Steel are now banned. But as you see here, this big slimy ghost dragon that was actually one of Ash's most powerful Pokemon, but as with all of his most powerful Pokemon, somehow, some way, they have to save the world or something like that, so he lets them all go. Anyways, enough about the worst trainer in possibly Pokemon Go history, or not Pokemon Go, but just Pokemon history in general in the anime. As you see here, Goodra is a beast. So Goodra as a pure dragon type attack, as a pure dragon type, it doesn't have that double weakness. So one of the big weaknesses of things like Dragonite or per se like Salamence is that they're double weak to ice. Because you don't have that flying typing, Goodra is not double weak to ice. So it can last a little more against ice types, and it really complements its defense. So what makes Goodra really good is it's pretty bulky, so it has good defense. And because of that, it also rocks Dragon Breath, and because it rocks Dragon Breath, it makes it an incredibly powerful Pokemon. Just because Dragon Breath is the most overpowered fast move in the game as far as like sheer damage. It's a one-turn move, it does a crap ton of damage, and with a Dragon type, you do get the same type attack bonus called Stab. As you see here, as I mentioned with Goodra, you're not double weak to ice with the singular Dragon typing. You're weak to Fairy and Dragon, but your only two threats are actually Ice and Dragon, because Fairy types are bad. Yes, you can see Charmers in this cup, however, a lot of really relevant Charmers are Fairy types. So, don't bank on seeing a Charmer in this meta. The good thing about not having the flying typing as well is that you don't have your electric weakness, so you actually resist electric types this time around. So, as a pure Dragon types, you resist all the elemental typings, which is electric, fire, grass, and water. So those are, I see water probably being run a lot in the Retro Cup. That's why if you look at the statistics or rankings, Goodra ranks really high, or Dragon Breath users in general, just because of the damage they put out, and then their ability to resist the elemental types like you see here. Another plus is its moveset. It has Dragon Breath, but it also has Muddy Water, Power Whip, Sludge Wave. I know you're like, ew, Muddy Water, really? Like, it's a bad bait move? Well, here's the thing. Even if they don't fall for the bait, it's like a Moonblast. There's a 30% chance of a debuff, so it's like Mirror Shot / Moonblast. If you get the debuff, you can flip the current match you're in right now. If you grab a shield, that's even better, and 30% is pretty high. Along with that, you have Power Whip. So Power Whip does heavy damage, and you're able to nuke a lot of things. You have the option of going for Sludge Wave and Draco Meteor, but there's no real reason to go for Sludge Wave or Draco just because of most of the time you will be firing Muddy Water. Sludge Wave, because no fairies are allowed, your only target really is Grass-type Pokemon. There's really no point in Sludge Wave in Grass-type Pokemon. There's really not a lot of instances where you will fire Sludge Wave yeah. And then Draco Meteor, of course, just for the big nuke move. You can use Draco Meteor, but it's really dicey, because Draco Meteor requires a lot of energy, so it's gonna take a while before you get there. As you see here, it does require 75k dust, so it's not cheap. Your Goodra will max out around level 16, as you see here, 16. If you have a high IV one, you could get 50, like around 15 or 16. But it's a pretty sweet Pokemon. Of course, it's out in the wild right now, so then you can, thanks to the Dragon event, so the Xerneas / Dragon event, and it's actually out right now. But as you see, it's only 100 candy to evolve. It's really strong, and if you really want to use it, it actually serves you really well for the Retro Cup if you don't want to use Altaria. Alright, as I always say time and time again, please consider contributing to pvpoke.com. As you see here, we go to the rankings, and then we go to the Retro Cup, and then you can find Goodra overall at number 26, as you see here. So yes, things like Dragonite and Dragonair that are Shadow are really, well, these things are really hard to get for good IV, just because they're Rocket Style Pokemon, and you need to get Shadow Dratini. Altaria ranks at number 9, so if you want to use the budget pick, Altaria is there. However, as you see, Goodra is a beast. So Goodra What makes Goodra so good is that because you don't carry that, like, double weakness that Altaria does, you can do decently well against Ice types. Well, not decently well, but it's okay. But it's still very, very strong. As you see here, you're still able to beat Deoxys defense. You beat Alola Marowak, Lapras, Jellicent. So Jellicent normally will wipe you from the face of the planet just because Altaria is double weak to it, but you actually can beat Jellicent with Goodra. So there's a few things you flip that Altaria doesn't flip, and you still, but it's very, very powerful. So it can beat everything that Altaria essentially beats, but then you have that extra electric type resistance just in case. And also, again, since you're not double weak to ice, you can defeat Jellicent, which is a plus. However, not to say that it's not really that bad. As you see here, 91 as a lead, 91 as a switch. So it has a very good lead and switch potential. So you can use either one. Just mind that you lose hard to Altaria. Just keep that in mind. Goodra, if you get the debuff, I believe you can beat Altaria. So if you muddy water and then you do happen to get the, I think if you if you debuff, as you see here, you might be able. I don't know if you can. Wait, that's a 1 shield. There's a 2 shield. Sandbox mode. You go and take the 2 shields near you. Then you do these. Oh wait, no, never mind. You just like dragon breath each other to death. Okay, that's okay. Never mind. You don't get to it. So Altaria just wipes you from the face of the planet. So. Yeah, unless their Altaria is hurt, don't throw Goodra into Altaria. So as you see here, again, still good as a lead or switch, but again, just keep in mind that Altaria can beat you, so don't switch into an Altaria. So as you see here, as a lead Goodra ranks at number. Well, there's Altaria, there's Goodra. Number 24, beating Lapras, Alola Marowak, everything I mentioned before, that's usually what the 2 shield does, or the overall does. Again, with your ability to beat Jellicent, if you go to Altaria, you'll lose against Jellicent. Well, you'll lose against Jellicent, so here's what happens. So the reason why I'm highlighting Jellicent is just because Jellicent's actually pretty good for the Retro Cup. So, here's Jelly. As you see here, if it's the 2 shield, even if it has Ice Beam, you could power whip it down. I believe, yeah, as long as you hit it with power up, you could do really well. If you do, and pretty much you'll just wipe it. Even if you try to double bait per se, you should still be fine, as you see here. So Goodra can still win just straight. You could still win straight muddy water in the. I don't think you can win the 2 shield straight muddy water, so just be careful. But as long as you land a power up on Jellicent, you should be okay. Bang. Compared to Altaria, which does lose against Jellicent in the 2. This is pretty much the only highlighted matchup. So if you don't like Goodra and you want to go with Jellicent, or you want to go with Altaria, there's justification for that as well. But as you see in the lead, still really good. As a switch, it's actually the most powerful switch dragon in the meta. You can say switch with it. I don't recommend you use it if you see an Altaria, like for example, if you see an Altaria, your opponent leading an Altaria, and you have something else against it, and you're like, alright, Altaria's wiped out, then I'd say like leave, like Goodra, in my opinion, best serves in the switch or the back row. Or if you want, you can lead with it, and if you happen to be weak against something, then switch out. The reason why I don't prefer you lead with it is because with Altaria Community Day running out, that a Goodra is not, like, you don't want your Goodra on Altaria. So because of that, you kind of want to, leave it in the back. Take out Altaria first, and then you can do something fancier, whichever your game plan is. But as a switch, it still does very, very well. Again, you can use it as a switch, but be very careful, just because Altaria can wipe you from the face of the earth. As a closer, Goodra doesn't do too well, but as you see here, Goodra ranks at, holy crap, okay, hold on, let me just do the search button, because it's like 71. So it still does well. As you see here, the elemental, it beats all the elemental Pokemon. You'll still lose against things like Altaria, etc. So still very good, but if you want to use it, you may. Alright, here's the PvPoke.com matrix. As you see here, I have Goodra, I have a semi-good, so this is an average Goodra. As you see, levels up at 16. I also put a rank 1, so we'll see if a rank 1 does matter, as you see here. And then I put Sludge Wave as well as Draco Meteor. I know some of you had a few questions about different movesets. Well, what better way to look at them than the Matrix? At the Retro Cup meta to the right, we have the 2 shield, we have battle, and this is what we get. As you see here, You want to be careful of ice types. This is why I'm kind of like iffy about it being in the lead as well. You not only lose against Altaria, but you also lose against a whole lot of things in the 2 shield. So be very careful. That's why I don't prefer you lead with it. You can lead with it and then put like double weak, like do like put 2 coverage, like a kind of like an ABB or something like that in the back. However, I do not prefer you have it in the lead. You beat Shadow Dragonair, however, Shadow Dragonair is really hard to get, so you're not likely to see that. The big one is Altaria. Losing against Big Flying Bird Chicken is not a good idea. So, yeah. You are able, so the interesting thing about Goodra is that you can actually beat Frostless in the 2 shield. So this is what makes it very interesting. As you see here, Goodra can win just straight Muddy Water. If you get the debuff, it's even better. As you see, you have a dominant matchup in the 2 shield. This is what makes Goodra interesting. So, without the double ice weakness being gone, Frostless is the strongest safe switch and closer in the Retro Cup. So, if you lock in a Goodra in the 2 shield against Frostless, you will do very, very well. You'll also piss off your opponent even more if you do happen to get the debuff. As you see here. If they get debuffed, it sucks for them. So, it's kind of hilarious. If you get the double debuff, you're one lucky Pokemon trainer, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. Even getting one, or even if you don't get it, as you see here, you still come out with a sizable. You still beat them convincingly. But again, that's what makes it really interesting in a 2 shield Frostless, because Frostless is more so popular. It might like this is what your argument. This is a good argument for Altaria versus Goodra. Also, Goodra does beat Jellicent with Ice Beam in the 2 shield, where Altaria does not, because Altaria takes a huge amount of damage if it gets hit with an Ice type move. You do still lose against things like Lapras, etc. Unfortunately, fast move damage is very, very good, and Lapras can just blast you with just straight Surf you to death. You do beat Licky, but you do lose against Lickitung. So, Altaria in the 2 shield scenario beats Lickitung XL. Goodra does not. So, you flip very specific scenarios. If you do happen to see a lot more Frostless in the Retro Cup where you're at, then you might see a whole lot more. Well, yeah, if you see a lot of Frostless, it's really good. If you don't see a lot of Frostless, you might reconsider your Pokemon Go PvP decisions. But as you see here, you do beat Mew. Again, what makes Goodra really good, like it beats pretty much every Mon that has a sub Ice type attack, like you see here. Mew can't beat you with Ice Beam. Mew can beat Altaria with Ice Beam. You don't beat Goodra, as you see here. So Goodra convincingly beats Mew. So that's also a justification for Goodra. You also beat Regirock. I don't think this matters too much since not a lot of people have Regirock, but hey, if you do have one, or if your opponent does have one, you do beat in the 2 shield. In the 1 shield, things get a little interesting. So, if you go to the 1 shield, as we go here, we go to the left, you lose against a lot of, well, you don't lose against a lot of things, I would say, but you drop a lot of matchups. For example, remember Frostless? Frostless does beat you in the 1 shield. You do beat Deoxys defense, however. Shadow Dragonair, Jellicent, Lapras. This is why you don't want to use any moveset other than Power Whip and Muddy Water. If you look below here, there is a lot of things that there really isn't like any real justification. You lose so many matchups not having Power Whip, it's like ridiculous. Plus, Power Whip overall just does better damage, and with Power Whip you can wipe Wish Cash from the face of the planet. So, again, it's okay, but yeah. As long as you don't call the for Wish Cash, it's kind of interesting because yes, you lose here. However, if you do, that's only if you get hit by a Blizzard. There's no exception. If you get hit by a Blizzard, you will die. It's that simple. However, if you do call the bait, and you do shield the attack, guess what? Goodra wins. So as long as it's a bait dependent matchup. So just make sure you don't get Blizzard against Wish Cash or Mew for that matter. Same thing with Mew. Well, Mew can just straight Blizzard you. So yeah. So as you see here, you Muddy Water, and then boom, you get hit with Ice Beam. So Ice Beam does take more energy, but if your opponent decides to just go straight Ice Beam, they'll still beat you. So don't really worry. So actually, they don't. Is this IV dependent? That's a good question. Oh, it's just because you can Muddy Water them to death. Because if they don't shield the Muddy Water, they die. Yeah. Well, even if they, yeah, what if you don't shield the Muddy Water? Yeah, if they don't shield the Muddy Water, they die. Okay, so you can beat Mew straight. Okay, that's a lie. You beat Mew in the 2s and the 1 shields. even if they go straight Ice Beam. That's really interesting. Then I don't know why it says this. Anyways, you do beat Mew. You drop some matchups, but not too much different than the 2 shield, to be honest with you. And of course, in the closer, this is Goodra's biggest weakness. As you see, you're gonna lose against a bunch of things, so don't leave Goodra without shields, which kind of really sucks. But hey, it's what it is. The good thing is you still beat things like Lapras, Jellicent, and you beat Galvantula. So you still beat like the elemental Pokemon like a little Marowak, Galvantula, etc. With shield advantage, any Pokemon is going to rock everyone's world, but with shield advantage, as you see here, you have the ability to beat Obama Snow. You beat Cresselia, Deoxys defense. Anything with an ice type attack like Mantine or Drifblim will give you a little bit of a hard time, but other than that, it's very weird. You beat a lot of things, but you don't beat Medicham XL with Ice Punch. You also don't beat Mantine, and you don't beat Dugong or Drifblim. The only reason this bottom one beats all the ones you see here is because it has Draco Meteor. Of course, when you have a shield and they have 0 shields, Draco Meteor is a guaranteed hit. And if you've ever seen a Dialga in Master League hit a Draco Meteor on your Pokemon, you will die. In the 2 shields, everything's very, very powerful. But as you see in the 2 to 0s, you will beat everything but Altaria just because of Dragon Breath. So if you have 2 to 0s, if this ever happens, and you do happen to meet Altaria in the closer, and for some reason you have 2 shields and it's not dead yet, you're kind of dead just because you don't have anything to hit it with super effective damage. But if you debuff, as with anything, you win. Barely. So you have to get double debuffs. You have to get 1 debuff at least, otherwise you're both going to simultaneously knock each other out. And this is assuming you don't have chip damage on your... This is assuming both you don't have chip damage, but... There's a little bit... If Altaria is a little hurt, you should win the matchup, but it's so specific, I'm not going to worry about it. Another scenario you want to look at, though, is the 2 to 1 shield. 2 to 1 is always good to look at, because if you have shield advantage, this is what happens. You lose against Altaria, still. You'll lose against Obama Snow, Cresselia, Drifblim, Lickitung. So Lickitung XL still has a big advantage against you. Well, actually, that's... Why? Can it straight body slam you? Or I'm pretty sure it probably straight body slams you. Yeah, I can straight body slam you. But if you get the debuff, you go to boof. If you get the debuff, bam, you flip the matchup. So against Lickitung XL, Goodra doesn't do too well in the 2 to 1s. So keep that in mind. You do have to get the debuff. You can just sacrifice Goodra and then farm down the Lickitung for some fancy play or something like that, but that's really up to you. So as you see here, you still... Well, anything with 2 to 1s, it's still very, very strong in 2 to 1 shield. Just remember, you do lose against Altaria. You do lose against Obama Snow and Drifblim, just because Icy Wind does debuff you. So just keep that in mind. And that's, again, as you see here for Draco Meteor, there's no real justification to use it. Unless you have shield advantage and they don't have shields, then you're... Yeah, it's not really a good idea. I mean, you can use it, but it's really up to you. Alright, so if we want a team build with a Goodra in... Okay, hold on, wait, before I jack everything up. There you go. Okay, everything's right. Okay, cool. Okay, so as you see here, Goodra does... So Goodra and Frostless, well, this is kind of like Altaria Frostless, but you can lead with Goodra. Just make sure you have double coverage against pretty much ice types. Like, even though Frostless doesn't cover ice types, Shadow Ball... It does have Shadow Ball, it does cover... It's the best safe switch at freaking Retro Cup. Just use it. But as you see here... You are weak to Lickitung, so preferably we have something in the back. You can use Deoxys defense, so Frostless, Deoxys defense, and Goodra. And as you see here, after you flip that, it's really freaking good. It doesn't have a lot of bulk just because of Frostless. Literally, it's just because Frostless is on this team. If you take out Frostless, Goodra, and Deoxys defense are actually pretty legit, as you see here. Papam! Well, it's just one whole grade. Don't even worry about it. So as you see here, Frostless, Deoxys defense, and Goodra. Pretty well balanced team. Good coverage, good safety, so you're pretty safe. Remember, Goodra does lose... You want Rock Slide, so for Deoxys defense, it's going to be Rock Slide, but basically you have double coverage against its weaknesses, and of course your biggest core breakers are probably going to be Frostless. So Frostless isn't super... Again, you beat Frostless in the 2 shield with Goodra. So when you run a Matrix, or when you do a Matrix like this, look at every... So this only accounts for the 0 or 1 shield. It doesn't account for the 2 shield. So a little secret about my team building thing is what I will do is that I will run the Matrix, but then whatever lead I have, I will run it against all of these leads. Just do all I do is do a Matrix, run it into 2 shield, and poof. I see what you can beat. You beat Frostless into 2 shield. You also beat Mew and a 2-shield. So 2 of these are actually things you beat. Not to say you don't do Drifloon, etc., but it's what it is. You also, but as you see here, you can cover Altaria. So you can cover Altaria. You could switch Deoxys defense into Altaria as your safe switch, or Frostus as your safe switch. Either one. If Goodra fails, what you can do is either 1, sacrifice Goodra in the lead, or 2, farm it R2, like Frostus 2-shield. Just Frostus 2-shield. So if all else fails, just use another overpowered strat. But as you see, this team's very, very good with Goodra. Deoxys defense, Frostus, really freaking strong. So, yeah, Goodra, if you want to use a little more meta, again, Frostus and Goodra and DD have a very good core together, just because Deoxys defense can punch down a lot of things that, like, Goodra's biggest weaknesses are ice types. Deoxys defense has Rock Slide and Counter, which also is super effective against ice types. So you can do things. If you have a Lickitung XL, you can even do this. Goodra, Deoxys defense, Lickitung XL, and then Pachow. Behold, just because Lickitung XL is such a destroyer of worlds. And then, as you see, pretty low threat score. This team is actually pretty good because Lickitung beats Altaria as long as it's outside of the 2-shield, so you should be okay. So just putting that out there. But as you see, very, very powerful, very, very good, insane coverage. So Goodra is very powerful. You can put it in the back, so how you switch out with it. So let's say we put Lickitung, which is the most powerful lead, put it with Frostus, and then just put Altaria in the, put Frostus, and then put Goodra in the back. You still get something that's really strong. As you see here, poof. Again, Goodra, you don't want to use Goodra, in my opinion, just don't use Goodra. Like, Goodra is a powerful switch, but I wouldn't, like, I don't, like, if your opponent doesn't know you beat Frostus in the 2-shield, you throw your Goodra into them, and you're like, oh, I win this, and then you reveal that they do not win because you could straight Muddy Water them to death. That's a good thing. So, research pays off. But as you see here, this team is super, well, you have Lickitung and Frostus, it's overpowered. So, again, you can also, well, I wouldn't recommend this because you're probably going to die. You can do Double Dragon. Because Dragon Breath is so oppressive, per se, you can do something like a Double Dragon, like, you can use Double Dragon Breath. Again, I don't recommend it, but heck, if you want to be like, you can use Altaria and then just, yeah, Death by Dragon Breath. Horrible coverage, as you are, like, actually, yeah, horrible, well, decent. So, Frostus to break shield, Altaria, Goodra just to blast the back row. But, as you see here, well, this actually works pretty well. I would lead with this is pretty good, but as you see, like, yeah, just double Dragon Breath, just because Dragon Breath is so overpowered for the Retro Cup. But again, it's really up to you. Goodra's the closer position is Goodra's weakest position in the Retro Cup, so you could use it as a lead or switch. But, and far as, like, comparisons, it's very, like, it's very powerful. If you want to have a little bit of fun, Goodra is very good, and like I mentioned, it does beat a lot of the sub-ice type charge attack users in the 2-shield. Minus things like Drifblim, or, like, I would say Altaria. It doesn't have a sub-ice type attack, but it does have a Moonblast. But I believe if you do get the debuff on Altaria, Cresselia, you could probably beat it just because debuff being super oppressive and Goodra being tanky. Well, not as tanky as Altaria, but it's tanky. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So, Goodra is powerful for the Retro Cup. Just keep in mind that Altaria does beat it. With Altaria Community coming out, your Goodra will have a little bit of a tough time, but like I mentioned, Goodra is a very interesting mon, because if you did watch this video, then you know something a lot of people probably won't know, and that's that you beat Frostus in the 2-shield and some other Ice-type Pokemon, etc. So Goodra is really, really good. In that sense, you can kind of use it to fool your opponent. For example, you safe switch Goodra and they safe switch for Frostus into you. You beat Frostus in 2-shield, straight Muddy Water. And they don't know that, so it kind of sucks for them. But it's because of Goodra's high defense that it's able to do that. The big if about Goodra is that you lose against Altaria if Altaria has no chip damage. So if Altaria is chipped away and you're at full HP, you can take out Altaria. So in order for you to beat Altaria, you need to have Altaria, like, it just needs chip damage. But in an even scenario, you will lose against Altaria, or it will be a simultaneous knockout depending if you get the debuff on Muddy Water or not. But that's what makes Goodra really interesting. It can flip some of its matchups using Muddy Water and getting the debuff. I wouldn't bank on it. 30% isn't 100%, but you know what? It's still a lot more than anything else has. But again, Muddy, like, Goodra is really fun. I think it would be fun to use, and like I said, because of the fact that it does beat certain ice types in this meta, you might want to consider using one. Or if you really like it and you really want to use it, yeah. But that's probably something I will do. Like, when Retro Cup comes out, I'll probably throw Goodra into battle, and then I'll see what it does. And then I'm gonna try to use that strategy, basically. But again, like, if you... Altaria is... In a sense, overall, Altaria is the better investment, per se. But that doesn't mean Goodra isn't useless. Altaria, the only reason that what really limits Goodra is just the fact it loses to Altaria in most scenarios. You can still beat it, but you need to be... Altaria needs chip damage. But if you really like Goodra and you really want to try it out, it's actually really, as you saw here, it's really freaking good for the Retro Cup. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. I will do videos like this all the time where I analyze stuff, and Goodra is, Goodra's been mad hyped right now, and it's actually really good for the Retro Cup. So, if you want to use it, I don't see why not. Just make sure you look over your matchups again. Again, you do beat certain ice types, but just make sure, like, you do your research. And hopefully you got a good Goodra. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.